power of editing. All right.
Something tells me we're gonna get this done on the first take.
Oh, there are no. This is all. What can we edit and be appropriate?
Okay.
So test 1, 2.
Yes.
And the church bells have rung.
Yes.
So are we
okay.
going on this stroll?
Yes. I like
Well,
it. Nick and Tonya on the mic.
Tell us where we are, because you're the real pro at this.
Oh
Where
well,
are
this is
Help me,
the beautiful Presidio, and we're here at the Women in Wealth Summit, hosted by the wonderful and marvelous Shyama Bunton, supported by her fantastic husband, Jonathan, at Big Delta Capital. And it's pretty remarkable what they've been able to accomplish. This is their first big soiree, and you know we've had a chance to hear from all sorts of powerhouse women in learning about their own personal journeys. And I don't know, Tonya, what do you think? Isn't there kind of like there's a lot of stigma around wealth and finance, and it seems to me that they've been able to have really authentic, thoughtful conversations and kind of take a lot of the weirdness. Watch the step. Thank you.
Good.
So I don't know. Can we interview each other?
I was just going to ask, are you who's doing the interview here? This is going to take a lot longer than 3 minutes.
That's okay.
As long as we don't trip on the way. We are having fun. But you're right. They have turned this. People are going to get swimmy, head sick.
Okay,
No, it's good.
Though.
It's good.
Yeah.
They have done a remarkable job of making it what I consider accessible. It's really important that wealth not be considered just philanthropy or just, uber wealth that comes to mind for all of us.
Yeah.
They've made it accessible for people who are much earlier on their journey, and they've given tangible, practical advice, guidance, and encouragement for everyone to step into that.
Yeah, because it can feel daunting not knowing like where to start and what vehicle is the right one. And I don't know, when I think of the right vehicle, it's one where you feel aligned with the people and the mission, but also you feel like you can be strategically valuable to, not just mitigate the risk because you want to have the best return, but also be part of the part of the process and the part of the success.
Right,
so,
exactly. One of the things that I think they've really highlighted too is that we're not in this alone.
Yeah.
We have a community. I mean, we've practically in every panel offered up, we are the community. We are here to help each other reach success.
Yeah.
And I've not really felt that in other places I've been. It's not that anyone's pushing you away, but we're definitely an individualistic society.
Yeah.
And this room is clear that we are all in this together, moving each other forward so the world does better, bigger, more wonderful things.
Well put.
Yeah.
What do you think is different about this specific? Is it because there's just not so many of those pesky straight white males?
No, we'll get to that in a minute. Those pesky white males are necessary. They are. But the why? So many different walks and stations. There are people here who are like lifetime philanthropists.
Sure.
There are people here who are, just married, trying to get their first house, that are earlier on their journey, and we're from multiple industries. A lot of what you and I do further up the peninsula is heavy tech orientation or tech adjacent. And not that we're competitive, we're not, but there are so many, like as I've listened to these ladies that are on the stage, I've thought to myself, wow, those are verticals that I know about, but I'd never thought about working in and making change in. And so they've made like the platform where we can do these things much broader than what we're used to seeing, and I think that creates inclusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you say you're familiar with the vertical, but maybe there were some surprises, some insights that you had from some of the ladies, anything that sticks out in particular?
Real estate, because I think the majority of people at some point in their life buy a home and can relate to that. A lot of us in the room have investment properties already, but they were talking about elevated strategies. I love Jen Nash, the lady in the pink pantsuit. She talked about using other people's money, and that becomes strategic. That becomes very like, how am I using real estate as a vehicle to use other people's money to make money? And that's a good way that we can all relate to not making $1 million investment, but making a first investment that $1 million worth of investments come in.
I see. Yeah, it's interesting because like when I hear real estate, my mind automatically goes to like public storage, which is kind of a unique vehicle just because it's not particularly sexy, but they've returns like consistently 35-40%, and it seems to be impervious to economic upturns and downturns.
I have storage in 2 cities. I have Nashville storage and I have San Jose storage.
Wow.
Because we live in smaller places now, or
Yeah.
like I left Tennessee.
Yeah.
But I thought I was going to go back. Don't tell anybody. I'm probably not. But
Thank
I have
God
storage
she's sticking
there.
with us, folks.
That's right. This
You know
is
what?
home.
You can't have her back.
There are people going to come after you for that.
You know what?
But it's all
Let
good.
me add 'em.
So there's something that I pulled you out of session because I wanted to talk to you about it. People who aren't here won't necessarily relate unless we tell them there are not a lot of men in the room. By
Yeah.
design, we wanted this to be a protected experience for women to be in community. So the men that are in the room were hand chosen.
Yeah.
And you're one of the very few
Yeah,
in the
like
room.
like 5 or 6
So-
out of 120 or 30 or something.
So what's it like? What's it like to have the tables turned? And I'm not being snarky at all.
No.
I want your genuine insight because it is very rare for you to be in such a minority. And I think you have a very healthy appreciation for what women bring to the table in business, in life. But what's it like not being around your tribe? Because I know your tribe.
That's a heck of a question. I believe in radical transparency.
Yeah.
I'm glad that this is a safe space. I felt like there were maybe like once or twice when I felt, and perhaps this is me unfairly projecting, but there was maybe like once or twice where I felt like there was not, I don't want to say like bitterness or resentment, but maybe I was kind of put on my back heels a little bit. But then again, this is coming from a perspective where I can kind of walk in any room and kind of feel like at home and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's okay that I was just being real transparent here. But more importantly of how I feel in this environment, it's more important that the women here feel like they can create that community and express frustrations and concerns. For example, there were a couple times when, straight white males were pointed out. I think it's not necessarily, you don't want to alienate the people that you should be kind of helping align with you. But at the same token, if these are real feelings and frustrations that have come about from real experiences, that those experiences need to be honored. And it's probably indicative of a larger real truth where, only 2% of venture funding goes to female-run startups. I hope that kind of answered your question.
Yeah. And you know how much I adore you. So this is not in any way to correct you. It's to reflect.
Yeah.
Imagine how many conversations have occurred with all men in the room and what those have looked like.
Sure.
So I'm not dismissing you didn't have pain, but I'm not dismissing your statement. It's just, I think it is what sometimes happens when you have largely one audience. If you have one audience of all Eskimos, they're going to talk about fish and how the polar bears are in their way because they're
Sure.
catching the salmon.
But I don't feel like a polar bear. I feel like I'm catching fish with the
I agree.
in this capacity.
But this is not about you. This is about decades of history.
Yeah, no,
Right?
you're-
I think those statements
you're
have
right.
been generalized when they've been said.
Yeah, hard for me not to internalize that.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. My wish, and I know you already know this, but my wish is for us to all be in the same room together and truly collaborative. I think that's why you've developed such a following, is because your heart is naturally, truly aligned and collaborative with equity.
Oh, thank you,
Equity
Tonya.
across the Eskimos and the polar bears and everything in between.
Yeah.
But I think this is the danger when we get into audiences that are too narrowly focused,
interesting.
because people look to see what is making them an other. I'm going deep here, so
Yeah,
I'll
no,
stop.
no,
'Cause
this is
but
great.
people look to other themselves and think about the oppressor, and those are big words. But they think about that, and then they talk about some of the things that are in their way. And historically,
How do we overcome those? Yeah.
some of the things in our way have been, I'll just say it this way, but all the white straight men
Sure.
over 50 being together in decision making and making decisions that suit them
Yeah.
and their circle. So I think it's natural, but that's why we've got to get everyone to the table.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Put. This is kind of a trite example, but I heard back in the 50s when a bunch of white males were coming up with ideas on how to create female products. They were talking about the razor, and they said, pink it and shrink it. And that, it almost it feels like tongue in cheek, but it's a little embarrassing actually that was like a manifestation of our collective intelligence and how men were thinking about things. It's kind of like just oversimplified and a little like, why not get women in the room to help create the product that they're going to be using?
And when was this?
Well, like in the 50s.
Right. So we've come so far. You and I have both worked in enterprise grade software companies, and we make sure that the people that are testing our product ideas before we start building are the people who will use broadly. We've all heard the story about Apple when they developed the first iPhone and the gyroscope.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it didn't work for left-handed people. It wouldn't turn. This is their very first release.
As a southpaw, I am really offended.
Because they didn't have any lefties on the test teams that tested the first rounds of how the software works. So I think they even put it into market, or they got close, and it wouldn't turn left.
The data screwed up there. So Tonya, since you're on the board of ACG SV, and we just recently had the event at Niners Stadium, which was super fun, one of the talks that we had highlighted the fact that in medical testing, there were no women in the data points, so they didn't capture a lot of the, and that was just like really pretty sad.
It's not just sad. There were disastrous impacts on, as I recall, it was the diagnosis of liver disease.
Yes.
And it was like tens of thousands of women went undiagnosed because all of the testing benchmarks and parameters were originally tested on men.
Pretty disgusting, actually.
But this is evolution.
Yeah.
We're all learning. We're
Misfortune
all
breeds
figuring.
opportunity.
We're figuring it out, and I'm glad we are in a society here in the United States, despite whatever's going on with with the polarization that we're experiencing. There is a greater awareness of bringing all the people to the table that need to be there to make solid decisions. We weren't there in the 50s with those pink razors.
Yeah, exactly. And I have one important question for you. Our 3 minutes, did you actually think it was going to be 3 minutes? Because we're kind of close to 15.
I thought it would be
this was
5.
gonna
No, I
happen.
thought it would be
Okay,
5. We were also going to like walk the property and there's too many curbs to negotiate. So this was remarkable.
Yeah,
and
magic.
Thank you.
Always magic with you, Tonya.
Thank you for being here, because you being here with these women is the kind of open spirit that we all need to bring to the table to get comfortable with going out into the big bad world and fighting the polar bears.
Winning together.
Gosh, we need buttons or hashtags. Very good.
Thank you, Tonya.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Wow, that was a really good